Have you ever caught yourself wondering if you're doing better or worse than everyone else when it comes to money? Is this normal? Should I have saved more by now? Or maybe it hits you while scrolling. Someone your age is on another vacation. Someone else just bought a new car, an apartment. And without meaning to, you start comparing yourself to them. Well, almost everyone feels this pressure. The problem is, most people are comparing themselves without knowing what normal actually looks like. We guess, we assume, and those assumptions quietly shape how stressed we feel about our finances. So guys, today isn't about shaming you or telling you that you should have done everything differently. This is just the truth about how the average person is actually doing with money. My name is Jack, your instinct investor, and I'll help you understand everything today. Because the word average doesn't mean what most people think it means. And once you see the numbers, you'll realize that people you think are doing better than you actually aren't. If this kind of honest money talk helps you and you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. Let's start with income. Like, how much money do you actually earn compared to everyone else? Well, according to the most recent data, the median full-time worker earns a little over $1,000 per week. That works out to about $52,000 per year before taxes. Now, notice the word median. That doesn't mean average. Median simply means the middle. Half of workers earn more than this, and half earn less. If you make around $26 an hour, you are right there. You are exactly in the middle. But this is where things start to feel very different. That $52,000 is not what shows up in your bank account. Once federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare are taken out, that number shrinks fast. Depending on where you live, your actual take-home pay might land somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 a year. That's the money covering rent, food, transportation, insurance, and everything else life throws at you. So when people say, "I make decent money, but I still feel tight," this is why. The margin between earning and living is much thinner than it looks on paper. And here's the part most people miss. If income were the real problem, everyone earning this amount would feel the same level of stress. But they don't. Money stress isn't explained by income alone. If income alone explained money stress, then earning more would automatically make life feel easier. But for a lot of people, that never happens. The raises come. The promotions happen, and somehow, the pressure stays. That's because what really matters isn't just how much money comes in, it's what happens to it after. This is where spending and saving start pulling in opposite directions. Every dollar you earn has a job to do. And here's where people get blindsided. Many earners are doing everything they think they're supposed to do. They have a steady paycheck. They pay their bills. And yet, when you zoom out, they're quietly falling behind. Not because they're careless, but because the system they're living in leaves very little margin. When most of your income is spoken for the moment it arrives, saving becomes optional instead of automatic. And the first thing to get pushed aside is the future. Retirement feels far away, easy to delay. So contributions stay small, inconsistent, or don't happen at all. That's how people with decent incomes end up with very little set aside. And when you finally look at the retirement numbers, they don't line up with the life most people expect to live. Yeah, let's talk about retirement savings, because this is where the gap between expectation and reality becomes impossible to ignore. According to the Federal Reserve, the median amount Americans have saved for retirement is about $65,000. And that's not the average of high earners and low earners. About 1 in 4 Americans has no retirement savings at all. Nothing set aside for the day they stop working. For those who do have savings, the numbers by age are sobering. People under 25 have less than $2,000 saved. The 25 to 34 group sits around $14,000. By the time people reach 65 and older, the median balance is roughly $88,000. Now let's do the math. If you retire with $88,000 and follow a standard 4% withdrawal rule, That gives you about $3,500 per year. That's less than $300 per month to support your life after decades of work. This is what average retirement actually looks like. And if this is the average outcome, why are we all acting like everything's fine? And this is before we even talk about the safety net most people are counting on. For many people, the gap in retirement savings is filled by one assumption: Social Security will take care of it. The average Social Security benefit today is about $1,550 per month. Over a full year, that comes out to roughly $18,600. That number sounds manageable until you place it in real life. $18,000 per year is literally basic survival, and even that depends heavily on your situation. And remember, this is the average benefit. If you had gaps in employment, worked part-time for long periods, or earned lower wages, your benefit could be significantly less than this. Many people will be trying to live on much less. This is why planners tend to fall into two camps. Some people assume Social Security will always be there and plan their retirement around it. Others assume they may not receive much at all and treat any benefit as a bonus. Neither approach is perfect, but only one leaves room for safety. Because Social Security by itself is not enough to fully support most retirees. It was never designed to be. It was meant to supplement savings, not replace them. When you stack Social Security on top of the average retirement savings we just discussed, the picture still looks tight. And this pressure doesn't start in retirement. You can feel it long before that, in everyday life. This is where money pressure shows up the most. The average American household spends about $5,500 per month. Over a year, that's roughly $67,000 just to live. If your household doesn't bring home more than that after taxes, you're not getting ahead. You're breaking even. And if you bring home less, you're slowly falling behind. This is what people mean when they say they feel stuck, even with a job. Now let's break that spending. Housing is the biggest piece. The average household spends around $1,885 per month on rent or a mortgage, plus utilities, insurance, and maintenance. That's over $22,000 per year just to keep a roof over your head. If you live in a major city, that number probably sounds low. In many places, $1,800 barely covers a small apartment. Food comes next. The average household spends about $690 per month on groceries and dining out. That's more than $8,000 per year. And if it was not enough, we have transportation. It follows close behind at roughly $900 per month. Car payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, or public transit. Nearly $11,000 per year just to get where you need to go. And this is before we talk about the quiet factor that makes all of this harder: credit. Credit feels helpful on the surface. And in some ways, it is. The average credit score in the US is around 715. That falls into what lenders call good credit. But a good average score doesn't mean people are using credit well. It often just means they're making minimum payments on time. You can have a solid credit score and still be quietly draining your future income. This shows up most clearly with credit card debt. The average household carries over $9,000 in credit card balances. Now layer interest on top of that. Many cards charge around 20%. On a $9,000 balance, that's about $1,800 per year in interest alone. That's money you never see again. This is how debt steals from the future. And the hardest part is that much of this debt comes from everyday spending. Clothes, electronics, meals out. Things that felt small in the moment. What would change if interest stopped working against you? To answer that, we need to look at the number that ties all of this together. We need to talk about net worth. Net worth is what you own minus what you owe. Add up your savings, your investments, your everything. Then subtract your debts. Credit cards, student loans, car loans, mortgages. Whatever is left is your net worth. Because you can earn a decent income and still build very little wealth. Now, if you're 22 or 25 and just starting out, that number isn't alarming. It makes sense. You're early. You're building. But for people between 35 and 40, the median net worth rises to about $91,000. The 45 to 54 group reaches around $168,000. Those between 55 and 64 sit near $212,000. And this is what makes this next realization so important. If these numbers are achievable for the average household, why do so many people feel like they're going nowhere? The answer lives in the gap between earning and saving. We already talked about how tight monthly spending is. Most income gets absorbed immediately by basic life expenses. The average American saves about 6% of their income after taxes. That number is total savings. Emergency funds, short-term goals, long-term investing, everything combined. When you hear that, the math starts to make sense. If you're saving 6%, and some of that money is going toward things like a down payment, a replacement car, or basic emergencies, there isn't much left for building long-term wealth. This is why people feel busy with money but not productive. And this is where comparison becomes dangerous. When you see someone your age buying a house or taking expensive trips, it's easy to assume they're ahead. But net worth and debt doesn't show up on social media. Many people who look comfortable are simply leveraged. It just means appearances are misleading. This is also why income increases don't always fix the problem. And even with modest savings and average net worth, most people expect to stop working much earlier than the numbers actually allow. Most people expect to stop working around 65. But well, ironically, the average retirement age in the US is actually around 61. That means people are stepping away from work earlier than they planned, often without the savings or investments to fully support that decision. The word average is a benchmark to see where you stand and decide whether you want a different path. Because knowing the reality of what most people have or don't have gives you control over your own choices. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to check out the channel for more.